Hello, this is Dr. Jennifer Degler, and this is our 6th video in our series, Helping Your Stressed Out Brain Chill Out. And we're going to talk about now anxiety management strategies. How can you use your brain to help change your brain? And in this video, we're going to cover catching anxiety spirals early and nipping them in the bud. And so in our previous video, we were talking about the anxiety trick and how anxiety tricks your brain into thinking you're in danger when you're not. You're really just uncomfortable. You're in discomfort because a scary what if thought has just come across your brain. And if you are a worrier, and you've maybe always been a worrier, then it's important that you accept, you know what, my brain, my highly imaginative, deeply feeling, empathetic brain just produces more thoughts than the average brain. But not every thought I produce is something that I actually need to follow it all the way through. Because if you do, it will take you down into a worry spiral. And if you've ever had those, it's, you start with a thought, and then maybe there's an emotion, and then there's a body sensation, and then there's an image, and then maybe another scary thought, and then a worse body sensation, and then another image, and then an emotion, and then before you know it, you are just caught up in this spiral, and you're really activated, and you have flipped your lid like we talked about in our first couple of videos. And so it's like getting on the tilt-a-whirl at the fair, where you're just caught up in this spiral, and it just feels awful. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say you're at work and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're fine. You're just working along, happy as can be, working at your computer, and then all of a sudden this thought pops in your head. It's 4 o'clock. And then maybe you feel a little tightening in your shoulders, and then there's just kind of a uncomfortable sensation in your stomach, and all of a sudden another thought occurs to you. Well, wait a minute, my child was supposed to text me when they got home at 3:30, and you pick up your phone and you check, and there's no text there from your child. So then all of a sudden there's really kind of a knot in the pit of your stomach, and then there's a thought, well, what if they missed the bus, or what if they actually got off the bus and they got home and they slipped and fell on the bathroom floor, and they're laying there on the bathroom floor with the phone just barely out of their reach, and they're bleeding out. And then you have this image of your child laying there bleeding out on the bathroom floor. And so now your heart is beginning to pound, and so you get your phone and you just start texting your child, and there's no response, and now you're mad, and you're thinking, well, don't they know how I worry? Why haven't they reached out to me? And then you're frustrated, and by now you're breathing fast, and your stomach just feels awful, and you're feeling so worried and anxious, and you're totally caught up in that worry spiral. And then maybe at that point, when you're already really spinning around, you think, now would be a good time to try that breathing that everybody's talking about. Let me breathe. And you don't feel any better. And you think, see, these anxiety management strategies don't work. Well, that breathing, that didn't work because you waited until the spiral had really taken over. And when you flipped your lid, some of the more subtle techniques like mindfulness and breathing, they don't work so well if you've totally flipped your lid and you're just really caught up in the worry spiral. So in order for some of these techniques to work well, we have to catch that spiral early, and, as Barney Fife would say, nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud early. And so I'm going to talk to you about how to do that with a worry spiral, and then in subsequent videos we'll talk about, okay, once you've caught that worry spiral early, what are some other techniques you can use, like belly breathing, mindfulness, letting go of excess muscle tension. And I'll tell you more about those in other videos. So what we want to do is we want to a two-step process. First of all, we want to notice when that anxious thought just comes right across our brain. And we want to be able to say, oh, look, there's a scary thought. There's a what if thought that just went across my head. And a thought is just a thought. And now that I've noticed that I've had this scary thought, then I am now going to shift to a relaxation strategy, one of these anxiety management strategies, rather than this thought just occurred to me, and now I'm going to have some images, and then I'm going to have some body sensations, and then some emotions, and then some more thoughts, and I'm going to get caught up in that spiral. But here's the thing. We oftentimes, as human beings, we are not good at recognizing as stress and anxiety are building in us throughout the day. Now, we're good at detecting it in other people. Have you ever noticed that? You can tell the people you work with, the people you live with, you can tell when they're starting to get stressed out and it's building in them, and they're starting to get like this, flipping their lid. You can tell in them, but we're not good at detecting that in ourselves until we're already like this. So here's what you can do to help you keep yourself calmer throughout the day, which is to do as many as 50 little mini relaxations throughout your day, so that you're continuing to calm down this midbrain. Because if you are a worrier, or you're just in a time of your life where things are just really stressful, your brain's kind of like this throughout the day. But if we do some little mini relaxations, and I'm talking a lot of these throughout the day, but they're very, very brief, then we just keep calming this part of the brain down so that we're not as prone to being hijacked by a worry spiral. It's like if you had a pot of water on the stove and you had the heat up just below boiling, it's going to be simmering, and it's not going to take much heat to make that pot boil. But if it's just cold, and it's going to take a lot of heat to get it up to boiling. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep cooling down that brain, cooling down that limbic system throughout the day with little mini relaxations. And it's helpful if you have cues in your environment to remind you, oh, I'm going to do my mindfulness exercise for 1 minute, or oh, I'm going to do this belly breathing, or I like to call it 4 square breathing. I'll tell you more about that later. I'm going to do that because we'll forget. And so you can put reminders in your environment. Things like Post-it notes are really helpful. And just put Post-it notes, different colored Post-it notes, in weird places in your environment. Like maybe one on the wall clock, put one on a lampshade. Just put them in different places and they're just blank. And then when you see it, it's a reminder, oh, I'm going to do my belly breathing for a minute now. Oh, I'm going to do a centering exercise for a minute. You can use reminders on your phone to remind you of that. You could put like a little sticker on your phone. You could put a bell on your dog or your cat, and every time you hear it, it's a reminder. Do a little mini relaxation. You could put colored bands around like maybe your water bottle, if you're always carrying a water bottle. Maybe if you're at work, you can say, okay, whenever I see that annoying person, that's going to be a reminder to me to do a little mini relaxation to help just keep cooling that limbic part of my brain back down. And so that allows us to continue to live our life. Because if we're at work and we're just typing away on the computer, we can't just always stop and say, okay, now I'm going to take 15 minutes and do deep muscle relaxation. But we could, while we were continuing to type, say, okay, it's now the top of the hour. I have an alarm set on my phone, so whenever it's the top of the hour, I'm going to continue working, but I am going to also just do that in a very mindful way. So in subsequent videos, I will give you some more tips on these strategies that I've just mentioned. So I hope that you will be able to work on implementing catching an anxiety spiral early and nipping it in the bud.